eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Do your patients know what presbyopia is?
There are people who are afraid of the press.
Have you talked to your patients about multifocal contact lenses?
I've heard the bifocal, but not multifocal.
Exactly, not multifocal.
Do you need help with your multifocal strategy? Learn more at the conclusion of this episode. With more screen usage and indoor time, myopia, also known as nearsightedness, is increasing and getting worse in children. Now, certified eye doctors can prescribe MiSight One Day, the first and only FDA-approved soft contact lens to slow myopia progression in age-appropriate children. Visit CooperVision.com to find a Brilliant Futures certified eye doctor near you. Good morning, I'm Dr. Kerry Gelb, and welcome to Wellness 1280 on Open Your Eyes Radio. Please listen as I discuss the newest information in the world of health, nutrition, and sports every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Central Time on AM 1280 The Patriot. Also, please share your thoughts by emailing me at drkerrygelb@gmail.com. That's drkerrygelb@gmail.com. Wellness is taking over the Patriot Airways for the next hour. Sit back and enjoy my interview with the Carnivore Doctor, Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. Ultra-processed foods, such as packaged snacks, soft drinks, and ready-made meals, are industrial products made with additives and minimal whole foods. While convenient and tasty, they are often high in sugar, salt, fat, offering very little nutritional value. This combination makes them very highly addictive. In countries like the US and Australia, up to 58% of dietary energy comes from these foods, and their availability has increased rapidly. Research shows that frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods is linked to a range of chronic diseases, including heart disease, mental disorders, and eye conditions like cataracts, macular degeneration, dry eyes, and even higher mortality rates. Recent studies also reveal that these foods may elevate the risk of developing glaucoma, further highlighting their detrimental impact on eye health and overall well-being. Today's guest, New Jersey optometric physician Dr. Lisa Wiedeman, also known as the Carnivore Doctor, overcame sugar, carb, and processed food addiction by adopting a carnivore diet, which she has followed for the past 15 years. Now she dedicates her time to one-on-one coaching, leading group sessions, hosting carnivore beach retreats, and sharing her knowledge on YouTube. To connect with Dr. Wiedeman, follow her on Instagram or YouTube at Carnivore Doctor and at Carnivore Eye Doctor, or visit her website, carnivoredoctor.com. Dr. Wiedeman, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I am so passionate about really trying to get word out that we live in a world that is not natural anymore. You know, we were meant to be mammals on Earth and hunt, and the food that is in our stores, the food that is everywhere around us, we're triggered everywhere by processed foods, and these foods are addictive, and they have such a high concentration of what we call seed oils, which are extremely inflammatory, and they have this horrible aspect that they have a half-life of about 680 days. So that's a very long time, 4 to 6 years to have this exit. And all it takes is, one simple side dish of calamari or French fries or chicken wings, deep fried in that horrible canola oil, some sort of seed oil. And we're not realizing how detrimental it is to our health. And I'll add to that as far as the toxicity of our current food is the toxicity of our current electronic light situation where we are meant as mammals to be in the dark once the sun sets and to not be exposed to the high amount of blue light that comes off of TVs, cell phones, tablets, and computers, that we really need to pay attention extremely carefully, both to the food we put in our mouth and the light that we allow in our eyes.
That's a great introduction, and I appreciate it. But I got to ask you this question. I know you live down near the beach. Back in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s, you'd walk on the beach and people were thin. Now people are very, very overweight. 2/3 of the population are overweight. About 40% of the population is obese. What happened?
Yeah, so incredibly, now I guess we have to keep saying to ourselves, follow the money. These food companies put addiction specialists on staff to make these foods, let's say Doritos, Pop-Tarts, Oreos, Chips Ahoy, whatever you want to, ice cream, to make them as addictive as possible, to make them as highly profitable as possible. And people don't understand how truly addictive sugar is. It lights up the brain like cocaine and heroin. And I talk about this a lot because I see how many people suffer and get to overweight and ill health because they can't stop themselves from, turning to food. And we end up turning to food for all sorts of wrong reasons. Food becomes an emotional event, and we tend to turn to food to fill an emotional void, and it has lost its initial reasoning of eat for hunger, right? And it has turned into a whole, everything in our world, pretty much when you think about it, it's surrounded by food. It's like, where are we going? What are we bringing? What are we having? It's family, the traditions, the socialization, and it has become a much larger entity in life than it was ever intended, which is, let your leptin and your ghrelin dictate when you're hungry and when you're satiated. It has turned into such a hyper palatable situation that it's gotten out of control. And then add to that the toxicity of our light environment, and you have the recipe for a disaster.
I think it's a good point because sugar actually is more addictive than opioid drugs, such as cocaine. And withdrawal from sugar could cause depression and behavioral problems, and people don't realize that. And sugar is very hard to withdraw from. And I know for myself and people that I know, and that when they try to kick sugar, it could take days or even weeks. I know with me, it takes me 3 days. I could stop sugar, and after 3 days, I'll stop craving it. But what do you think? I mean, you're in this community, you talk to a lot of people that are trying to kick sugar. Talk to me about the withdrawal they go through trying to kick it. And then I want to after talk about the addiction, that carbohydrates are also addictive, and withdrawal of that as well. So if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so really when we talk about carbohydrates and sugar, we're talking about one and the same, because once you chew a potato or a piece of bread in our mouth, our amylase enzyme breaks right into breaks it down into sugar. So we can even add alcohol to that. So between carbohydrates, alcohol, and sugar, we're really talking about the same entity. We have to really understand that, which is how I ended up finding the carnivore zero carb way of life, because I realized I cannot moderate sugar or carbs. And it became so important in my recovery to understand that abstinence was really the answer. You don't tell an alcoholic, oh, you can have a shot of tequila every other weekend, it's okay. And, there's that saying, one bite is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So you can't just have one cookie when you are someone who has a propensity really to be absolutely addicted to it.
Do you have any tricks why people are going through the withdrawal and trying to withdraw from sugar? What kind of tricks do you have? I know a couple of tricks that I tried, but from you and your community, you have much more experience than I do, other than me
Yeah.
and one.
Yeah, because this has been a long 15 years of coaching people out of their sugar addiction, and to the point where I made a YouTube video on the top 10 ways to tackle your cravings, which is basically how to get yourself through that period of when you're white knuckling it. So yeah, lots of different ideas.
So, Dr. Wiedeman, before the break, we were you told me about a YouTube video that you did about how to kick addiction. I got to hear it. You got to help us with that. How to
Yeah. Yeah, so let me tell you, one saying that I'm known for is suck it up, Buttercup. This isn't easy. It's not going to be easy, and you got to do the hard things. And making a change is difficult, and going out of your normal routine is very difficult. But some of the tips and tricks as far as getting through those white knuckling moments is I hard-boiled eggs and I put them in a jar of pickle juice and I just have a dozen pickled hard-boiled eggs and you get that craving, go for it. I keep nice chunk salt on the counter, take a pinch of that, put it in your mouth, suck on that. You have to do different things that will just get you out of that moment. And, like you said, for some people it's 3 days, some people it's 3 weeks. But there's lots of tips and tricks as far as go-to things, especially if you're used to here's a tough one, Carrie. A lot of people are used to their coffee drink, and of course that's just a vehicle for cream and sweetener, whatever your sweetener of choice is. And I am very adamant about talking about the sweetener aspect because any taste of sweet, whether it's stevia, monk fruit, honey, sugar, hits your sweet sensors and is triggering the whole same cascade of problems. So when you're talking about, people will say, well, stevia is natural and I should be able to have fruit, right? Oh, no, au contraire. It's the same thing. It's going to keep driving you to want fruit tomorrow and the next day. And I have not eaten fruit in 15 years. I know people find that crazy, but fructose is really actually not that healthy. And our fruit today is genetically modified to be these huge sugar bombs. They're not the sour tart cherries and the crab apples of long ago, and everything, bananas, pineapples, they've all been altered and morphed into these huge sugar bombs. So it's just important to remember that about sweeteners, because I tell people it's like just changing seats on the Titanic. If you get off sugar and fruit and then just shift onto stevia and erythritol and allulose and all these other things that are in all these keto recipes, it can be very problematic because you're on the same ship going down.
So you gave me the eggs with the pickle juice. You gave me salt. You got to give me a couple more because for people that maybe don't like eggs and pickle juice, give me some other ones to help us kick that craving.
Yeah. Okay. So for one of the things that I recommend, especially because, like I said, I know from a long history of coaching, many people are stuck on either their Diet Coke, their chewing gum, which are very problematic because you're just putting sweet and sweet in, and you got to get rid of it all. And gum doesn't belong in our mouth either. It's telling our bodies that food is coming down by the action of chewing. So there's all sorts of reasons behind not doing any of these things. But as far as the Diet Coke, just switch to regular seltzer, carbonated water. Put a little squeeze of fresh lemon or lime in there, and it's delightful. You have to get used to not wanting and craving that taste of sweet. As far as the coffee drink, because of course we're coming on the October, November season here with the iced pumpkin lattes, which are just sugar bomb after sugar bomb. And so I have this, I have actually a separate YouTube video on this, is a hot nog drink. And it's basically taking a couple, 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter, pouring in boiling water. And I know this is going to sound strange to people, but as you whisk it with a little frother, you dump in raw egg, either raw egg yolks or a full raw egg. It makes it so creamy and foamy. No, it doesn't cook. I know it's hard to comprehend pouring an egg into boiling water, but as you're frothing it, and then I add a little cinnamon, a little cardamom, and a little, they do make actually powdered vanilla bean extract, and whisk that in. And it's a delightful, and a little pinch of salt too in there. It's a delightful drink. And to get you off of these other habits that are just vehicles for your sweeteners, you try to keep making alternatives until you get to that point you're like, I don't need it anymore. You know what I drink now? I have hot water with a little squeeze of lemon, and it tastes remarkably like herbal tea, and it's healthy. We're meant to consume water. And for the, I know we can get on this whole side subject of coffee, because I'm not a fan of coffee. There's a lot of pesticides and chemicals, and it actually is bitter, because we're supposed to be comprehending that, no, don't put this in our mouth. But to help the bitterness, of course, we just put cream and sugar in. But it's I call it burnt seed water, and try to get people to understand it's truly an addictive drug, and it attaches to our adenosine receptors and disrupts our sleep, and is not good for bone mineralization. And yeah, again, we are meant to eat whole food and drink water.
So that recipe that you just gave, where you're putting the egg into the hot water, the boiling water, do you mix it, or you don't even have to mix it?
Well, yeah, with a frother. That's why with a rechargeable little frother, it's
Oh, of
we're
course.
spinning and frothing it all, the whole time, while the butter will melt, and then keep frothing it, and then pour the egg in, and it just comes up to a very delicious, creamy, buttery drink that's healthy. It's got butter and egg in it. So if anybody out there is fearing butter and cholesterol, that's a whole nother topic, because I've been eating basically beef and lamb for the past 15 years, and no fruit and vegetable, and my cholesterol is perfect.
Let's get into that. What made you change your lifestyle 15 years ago to go carnivore? First of all, tell us what that even means to be carnivore, because I think a lot of people don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And then tell us your story.
Yeah. So I was, for a very long time, most of my life, from the time I was in my teens, didn't know it at the time, but fully addicted to carbs and sugar, and just couldn't understand um, what this disordered behavior I had that kept worsening over time. And yeah, just eating disorders, and uncontrolled binges. And I just kept seeking an answer. And as time went on, and finally the internet came about, I found this group called Zeroing In on Health. And so most people have heard of Atkins, and Atkins, suppose, like, the first 2 weeks of Atkins is called induction phase, and you're basically eating carnivore. It's basically meat, seafood, and eggs is what carnivore is. If it came from an animal, I eat it. And I, I fortunately, in my internet surfing, came across this group, and then I thought to myself, okay, this is pretty strange. I don't understand why these people are just eating meat and drinking water and thinking this is healthy. So I kept reading, though, because there was journals in there of all the people that were in there, and there was people who resolved themselves of anxiety and depression, people who resolved their diabetes, people who resolve themselves of their disordered eating. And boy, did my eyes perk open. And I said, well, what do I got to lose? I'm going to keep, researching this, and started at the same time. And it was life-changing. And then the people in the group, we started studying Vilmar Stephenson, Fat of the Land, Not by Bread Alone, all the old writings of explorers, and how this actually is really a natural native diet, the Inuit, the Maasai. And the more I read, the more I also did it myself and had my own experience. I was just blown away how incredible I felt. Acne clears up, psoriasis, eczema, IBS, Crohn's disease. I mean, the more I was in it, the more I'm hearing arthritis is gone. And then as it got further along and more people were coming to it, of course, root cause, from root ground in internet searching, because this is not put out there because there's no money to be made telling people to eat meat and drink water. So this is not, and then of course it's going to chink into the pharmaceutical sales. And so this then became much more prominent with Dr. Sean Baker being interviewed on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is a huge podcast. And Dr. Sean Baker is an orthopedic surgeon who came about finding this and did it on his own. He was a rugby player. He's an Olympic athlete, and he had his own share of a little weight issues and joint pain, and he did it, and he was like totally blown away. He was telling his patients about it. Patients who came to him to have knee surgery, he said, you know what? I know this sounds crazy, but try this first. They come back 6 months later and cancel their surgery. He ended up getting ousted out of the hospital system because his surgery rates were going down. And once your surgery rates go down, then you're ousted. And he changed his career to just helping people with this way of eating.
Wow, I'm speaking with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. She's sharing her story about becoming carnivore. She's explaining why she became carnivore. If you want to connect with Dr. Wiedeman, you can connect with her on Instagram or YouTube at The Carnivore Diet or Carnivore Eye Doctor. We'll be right back with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman right after the break.
MacuHealth, your science-born and tested solutions for visual performance, macular degeneration, and dry eye syndrome. New products coming soon. Embrace the science.
You're back with Dr. Kerry Gelb. You're listening to Wellness 1280 on Open Your Eyes Radio on AM 1280 The Patriot. You could visit my website at wellness1280.com. Any comments, Dr. Kerry Gelb at gmail.com, and look for my documentary. You can see on Apple TV or YouTube. It's called Open Your Eyes, and I know it's on Amazon. I know people love the documentary, so if you watch it, leave some comments for us. So we're back with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman at Carnivore Doctor, and she was telling us about her story and why she switched from eating the regular standard American diet, or the SAD diet. I think you call it something else than the SAD
standard atrocious diet.
Standard atrocious diet. And were you heavy before you started?
Yeah, I had I've been battling my weight my whole life. I really, because I battled food my whole life. And it wasn't really until I realized, by eliminating all of the carbohydrates, processed foods, sugars, and grains, that I could be free of that. And as time went on, and I had been doing this about 10, 11 years at the time when Sean Baker came out about his whole conversion to it. And then there was cardiologists switching to eating carnivore, and neurosurgeons and reproductive endocrinologists. And I could go on. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of medical professionals now doing what back when I started, it was such an unusual thing that I felt like I was flying my freak flag. Now I feel like I have a whole community and tribe of people because this is really spreading far and wide. And basically, it's you can eat any kind of meat, any type of seafood and eggs, as long as you tolerate them all. And most people find incredible health benefits by doing that. And no, you don't need fiber. I have not had a speck of fiber in 15 years, and everything is perfect. And I'll be 60 in another month or two, and I feel really better than I've ever felt in my life. And I think that most people who look at this as crazy, you have to really think ancestrally, what did man do? Because people say, don't you get bored? Aren't you bored? What do you eat for breakfast? I said, I don't know. Sometimes ground beef, sometimes a New York strip, sometimes some lamb chops. I don't know. It depends what I'm in the mood for, but I'm never bored. When I get hungry, that grilled ribeye is delicious. And you know what? This is what would bore me, standing in line at the pharmacist waiting for a prescription or waiting in the waiting room of a doctor. That's boring. I don't ever do that. I haven't been to the doctor in a very, very long time. I assume that it will be if I ever break a bone, but I'm not in need of the medical sick care system.
So are you making sure everything's grass fed and grass finished?
That's a preference, but I'm going to say for the majority of these 15 years, I would buy my meat from Costco or on sale at the local grocery store. I tell people, you know what? Do what you can afford. Do what eat the meat that tastes good and you can afford, and then go from there. Don't over obsess. You know what? Store bought beef, let's say grain finished, because they're all grass fed. All cows eat grass, and it's all grass fed, but it's whether they're grass finished or grain finished. But all of that is way better than cookies and ice cream. So don't overthink the technicalities of it.
So have you done any labs? And you mentioned that you said your cholesterol is normal, but other labs or nutrient tests because you're not eating any type of vegetables. So do you have enough nutrients? Have you done any kind of SpectraCell or to check what your nutrient levels are?
Yeah, I have not done anything like SpectraCell or anything like that. Although I'd be willing to, if somebody wanted to see my results and offered the test, I'd be happy to. But I and another common question related to the vegetables is no, I do not take any supplements or vitamins because every vitamin, mineral, and nutrient I need is in my extremely nutrient dense meat. You could add to that, some will say you should also include some organs because those are also extremely nutrient dense. I am not a fan of eating liver, so I haven't done much of that, but there's ways around that if you feel like, you can freeze it in little cubes and pop it frozen like a pill. But yeah, so as far as all of my blood work, I used to test it every year at the beginning of this because I was skeptical myself, like, well, this can't really be the holy grail here, is it? And everything just is so normal that I stopped testing because what am I doing? What if something's like a little off? What am I doing? Am I gonna add a salad in? There's nothing nutrient dense about lettuce. Let's be real. So no, I go by the fact that my teeth are strong, my nails are strong, my eyes are bright, my hair is thick, and I can't imagine that I would need to continue to be part of this testing system. I could go further and further. I don't do mammographies or colonoscopies either. So that's a whole other, I have a YouTube video about that. But yeah, it's get yourself out of the sick care system and testing everything. And yeah, I know it's not popular in the general public's eye to to say something like that, but that's exactly where I'm at. I feel so confident that I'm eating the proper human diet.
How about when you get together with the other physicians that are doing this type of diet? Do you guys share your labs, and you share any kind of test to show that you're getting the proper nutrients, or that's not something that people do in
Yeah,
the
no, it's not necessarily, when we get together there's different conferences. There's one called Hack Your Health. It's in Tampa in November 2025, next year. And there's a lot of us where, physicians and scientists getting together, but it's actually talked about openly on YouTube because so many people are interested in the labs. So the HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein test, all sorts of inflammatory markers. And, there's lots like, look into Dr. Philip Ovadia, Ovadia.
That's I interviewed him.
Oh, did you?
I interviewed him. He's a
Yeah, great guy, great guy. And yeah, it talks about the labs that, you should have done to kind of monitor your health. And of course, Dr. Ken Berry. And, you know, it this really comes down to there's nobody out there that is, we know who's in this space, and we would have known somebody who dropped out silently, and nobody has. And everybody's the picture of health. Look up Dr. Sean O'Mara, incredible physician for health optimization. And it's just, I get excited because back when I started, I had pretty much had to zip it up because nobody wanted to hear my little freaky thing that I was doing. And now that there's so many people resolving so many health issues, it's really exciting to see.
Share with us some of the health issues that Sean O'Mara or Ken Berry or Sean Baker, these are all physicians
Yeah.
that that they could share as being physicians, patients of theirs and things that have cleared up. And some famous people like, how do you say her first name? But Peterson, Malika.
Michaela Peterson and her father, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson had significant depression issues. Michaela, his daughter, she's in her late 20s now, but in her late teens, she was already getting joint replacement because she actually ended up figuring out that vegetables, plants, were destroying her, causing her extreme autoimmune issues, and her body was attacking itself.
From the lectins in the plants.
Yes, oxalates, lectins, phytates. And so some of these other physicians, Dr. Robert Kiltz, Kiltz, he is a reproductive endocrinologist. He himself resolved his own health issues of, can't remember them all. He had a lot, but he had bleeding hemorrhoids, he had GI issues, depression, ADHD, all sorts of things. And actually, I'll even throw out there's some people that are reporting remarkable improvements in autism. So, but for Dr. Kiltz, other than his own personal health journey with it, he then now is resolving infertility and PCOS issues in his patients, getting both the husband and the wife to join in and do this, and becoming pregnant remarkably, and understanding. And it's not totally just the food. There's other things in our environment, the plastics, right? And the NNEMF, the non-native EMF. So the radiation that's coming off our Wi-Fi. There's a lot of different things. So I'm not just saying carnivore diet is the answer to everything, but it's a huge part of the picture. And if we just basically think about it between that and then the toxins in our environment, I think we'll have a very good path to optimal health.
Are there any people that you had that had any downsides that you've noticed that you could report on?
Gosh, that's a good question. That's one I have not been asked as far as that. But honestly, I'm going to say a downside is that here's a big downside is that people start seeing and hearing the remarkable benefits of this. We'll just call it an elimination diet. You're eliminating all the pretty much every entity that could be possibly causing reaction. Get yourself down to meat and water. And people see the remarkable changes that can happen. And then they go, I've been doing this for 3 weeks and I still have pain in my knee. And I'm like, yeah, but you're 65 years old. You've been eating crap for 6 decades. It's not going to reverse in 3 weeks. So, yeah, we need vitamin P for patients. It doesn't, flip on a switch. And also, I'm going to say part of the issue with staying consistent and sticking with it long enough is guess what? People are slide back. I call it the carb ditch. People get triggered by a holiday or a party or a social event, and somebody saying, "What do you mean you're not going to eat chocolate again for the rest of your life? Oh, you've got to try this. This is the best sourdough bread you'll ever have." And next thing you know, 6 months later, you're still trying to wallow your way back out of that ditch. So that becomes frustrating for people because they want instant results. There are some people who do get results fairly quickly. There are some people who do get remarkable changes in the first 3 weeks. So I just tell people be patient and then understand there's other aspects of your environment. People could be in a situation where there's mold in their house and they don't realize it. They don't realize how toxic it is or how reactive they are. So there's so much more to it, but I can't say that I've seen or heard anybody. Actually, Paul Saladino, he was originally full on carnivore, and he says that I'm trying to think if it was his electrolytes or his thyroid. He needed to go back to fruit and honey. Um, and for many people who listen to him now, he surfs 4 hours a day in Costa Rica. So there's a way of burning off some fruit and honey there that most people don't. But he's one, with that I will say to answer your question, that has diverted off of the full carnivore path. But other than that, I'm gonna really have to think hard. But I think there's not a single one of us who's reverted back to eating fruit and vegetable.
So I just want to review what exactly it is. So you have a mnemonic, Muse, MEWS, what's on the diet. So go over that with us so we know exactly what you eat and what's on the diet.
Yeah, so you know the interesting the interesting thing about this is people will say, well, can you eat nuts? And I said, no, I don't eat nuts. They're actually not good for you. Almonds are high in oxalates. They're high in omega-6. No, I don't eat nuts. And they said, well, can I eat olives? And then I go, look, if it had a mother, you can eat it. Did it have a mother? Yes or no? That's your answer
Olive
right there.
oil.
Yeah. So yeah. So my Muse, MEWS. M is for meat, E is for eggs, W is for water, and S is a variable thing that most people salt their food to taste. Some people tolerate S for spices. Some people tolerate taco seasoning on their meat, and that's fine. And then S also for seafood, and we could just throw in all the S words of salmon, sardines, and scallops and shrimp, all S words. But that's pretty much what I live by. I basically eat beef and lamb every single day, and sometimes lots of eggs and sometimes not. I don't necessarily eat eggs for breakfast either.
And with the seafood, are you concerned with the mercury?
Mainly sardines are the small, very small fish that,
Catfish?
yeah, we're not that concerned. I don't eat a lot of tuna. And actually, I don't eat a lot of seafood at all because it's not fatty enough, and it's doesn't have the nutrient density that beef and lamb. The ruminant meats is really what you want to key in on, and ruminant being basically beef, lamb, elk, bison, venison. They're hooved animals that have multiple rumen stomachs.
How about snacking? What kind of snacks do you have?
Yeah, so the key to this is to understand that we actually really don't need to snack on anything. We eat and eat enough that you're full and satiated, and you wait till your next meal, and then you eat another meal. I really only eat usually two, sometimes once a day. I do naturally intermittent fasting because that's, like I said, naturally when you eat a high fat meal, you don't get hungry as often. But I'm going to say for sure, the amount of seafood I eat is probably 10% of my entire diet.
How about carnivore bars?
So I do love the Carnivore Bar. There's actually a company called the Carnivore Bar, and all it is, it's basically pemmican, which is what the Inuit and the Indians made, which is dehydrated beef that's pulverized and mixed with beef fat, and it stores indefinitely. It's not perishable. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. It's a delicious, tasty snack. And so, yeah, if you're hiking or out and about and you need some food, that's a great one. Or just plain dehydrated jerky, not the Slim Jim type jerky. And pretty much 98% of the jerkies you see in the store, you pick them up and they will have brown sugar in them or molasses or some sort of sweetener because, of course, they know people like that taste of sweet. But you could dehydrate your own meat very easily, just thinly sliced and dehydrate, put a little salt on it, and it's a wonderful snack.
As we're finishing up this segment, how about the HCAs, the PAH, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons from grilling beef that is supposedly that could cause cancer, or they're been proven, supposedly carcinogenic. So tell me about those, the HCA and the PAH.
Yeah, I'm gonna say here's my take on it. So for the past 15 years, I've done plenty of grilling. For the most part, that's how I make my meat. I throw it on the grill, even in the winter, or I will sear it in a real hot cast iron on the stove. And as far as your question about, am I concerned? No, you know why? Because I don't eat ice cream and chips and cookies and pizza anymore. So I can't imagine that I'm going to kill myself with those aromatic hydrocarbons and not have already killed myself with that garbage food I eat most of my life. So, and we have to pick our battles. I also, and I'll throw this out as a little tangent here in our last segment because this is a little zinger, is I prefer many times to eat my meat raw, and I will eat. Yesterday, my meal was raw ground beef. I go to a butcher and I have ground a sirloin, and I take it home and I put it in a bowl and I eat it, and it's so delicious and nutrient dense. And I actually believe higher nutritional value than cooked food. And
Hold that thought, Dr. Wiedeman. When we go to part two, we're going to pick it up. But in the last 20 seconds, how can people connect with you?
okay, yeah, carnivore-doctor.com is my website, which is getting revamped right now, but you'll be able to get in touch with me there. Head over to my YouTube channel, join into my membership community. I'd be happy to talk with you.
This is Dr. Kerry Gelb. We'll see you next week with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. Thank you.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Fitting multifocal contact lenses presents a big opportunity to meet patient needs while growing your practice. Alcon is your partner not only with our innovative portfolio, but through e-learning. Learn to enhance your multifocal strategy today with the Alcon Experience Academy.
OIE Broadcasting is the emerging leader in social media. We use scientific entertainment to drive more patients into your office. Visit oiebroadcasting.com and sign up today.